The phone buzzed at 3:17 a.m., slicing through the quiet like a punch to the gut. Calls at that hour never bring good news. I groped for the phone in the darkness, my hand brushing the empty, cold side of the bed where Kelly usually slept. Lately, she'd been staying late at work, or so she said. "Dad!" My daughter Mia's voice trembled through the speaker, drowned out by wailing sirens and chaotic yells in the background. "We're in deep trouble, Dad. There's been a crash." My heart froze solid. "Where are you? Are you okay?" I stammered. "On Highway 12 near the old warehouse district. Mom was with some guy she met at a bar, and he was driving—" Her voice cracked into sobs. "Cops are everywhere, Dad. They found drugs and a gun in the car." I was already yanking on my jeans, the phone jammed between my shoulder and ear. "Stay put, Mia. Don't say a word to anyone till I get there." 20 minutes later, I pulled up to a scene straight out of a nightmare. Red and blue lights flashed across the night like some twisted carnival. My beat-up Ford truck looked puny next to the ambulances and police cars strewn across the road. The air reeked of gasoline and scorched tires. I spotted Mia first, huddled under a blanket on the back of an ambulance. Blood caked her dark hair, and her right arm was slung in a makeshift brace. She looked so fragile, not like the fearless kid who used to curl up next to me during storms. "Mia!" I sprinted over, my boots grinding on shattered glass. She collapsed into my arms, and for a second, she was 6 again. "I'm okay, Dad," she murmured. "Just some cuts and scrapes. But Mom—" She nodded toward another ambulance. Kelly was out cold on a stretcher, her face ghostly under an oxygen mask. Her fancy blouse was ripped, blood-soaked. Even like this, she was stunning, the kind of beauty that hooked me 22 years back. "She hit her head badly when the car rolled," Mia whispered. "Docs aren't sure when she'll come." A shadow loomed over us. I looked up to see Detective Susan Harper, a face from my high school days. Back then, she was Susan Klein, star of the girls' soccer team. Now, she had a badge and a look that twisted my stomach. "Tom Brennan," she said, skipping the small talk. "We gotta talk." I stood, keeping a hand on Mia's shoulder. "Is my family gonna be all right?" Susan glanced at the ambulance. "Your daughter's fine. Your wife, too soon to say. But that's not the issue right now." She steered me toward a police cruiser, where a guy in handcuffs sat in the back. He looked younger than me, maybe mid-30s, with the slick charm of a guy in a whiskey ad. His pricey jacket was torn, blood on the sleeve, but he smirked like he was enjoying the chaos. "This is Derek Vaughn," Susan said. "He was driving your wife's Audi when it crashed. We found 3 ounces of coke in the center console and a .45 in his coat." The ground seemed to shift under me. "Kelly doesn't hang with guys like that," I said, my voice hollow. Susan's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Tom, your wife's been posting bail for this lowlife for years. She's his emergency contact, his lawyer, his—" She trailed off, reading my face. "You had no idea, did you?" It hit me like a freight train. Kelly's late nights, the secretive calls, the way she'd turned into a stranger in our own home, the designer bags I couldn't explain on my mechanic's paycheck, the bank statements she always took care of. "How long?" I croaked. "Long enough," Susan said, her tone softening, like she was breaking news of a death. "I'm sorry, Tom." I glanced back at Kelly, unconscious, then at Mia, battered but alive, then at the guy in cuffs who'd probably been sleeping with my wife while I busted my ass working overtime to keep us afloat. "You want to know who he really is?" Susan asked. "Brace yourself, Tom. It's going to get uglier." The hospital smelled like bleach and despair. I'd been camped in the waiting room for 3 days, living off vending machine soda and sheer stubbornness. Mia was discharged after a day of tests, but Kelly was still in a coma, her brain swelling, keeping her under. The doctors talked in vague terms about head trauma and guarded hope. But I could hear the truth they weren't saying. My wife might never wake up, and if she did, she might not be the woman who'd been lying to me for years. Mia sat next to me, her laptop open, supposedly working on a college essay for her junior year at a state school. But I caught her staring at Kelly's room more than her screen. "Dad," she said softly, "I gotta tell you something." I turned to her, really looking at her for the first time in days. At 21, she had Kelly's high cheekbones and my hard-set jaw. She was everything good about us, and the thought of this mess breaking her made me want to tear the place apart. "What's up, kid?" She shut her laptop and faced me. "Mom's been seeing him since I was in high school. Derek, I mean. And he wasn't the first." The soda in my gut churned like battery acid. "What do you mean, not the first?" "There were others," she said, her voice small. "I pretended I didn't see it, but she wasn't subtle. Late-night calls, meetings that dragged on, weekends she'd vanish and come back with new bracelets. I thought of the gold necklace Kelly wore to our last anniversary dinner. She'd said it was a gift from a client at her firm. I'd been proud thinking my wife was killing it at work. What an idiot. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. Tears welled in Mia's eyes. I thought she'd stop. I didn't want to be the one to wreck our family. I was 16, Dad, scared out of my mind. I pulled her into a hug, breathing in the familiar scent of her lavender shampoo, same as always. This ain't on you, Mia, you hear me? None of it. I know, but no buts. Your mom made her choices, and I was too blind to see them. Mia and I sat there quiet, watching the nurses hustle by with their charts and focused faces. After a while, she spoke up again. Dad, there's more. It's about Uncle Greg. My brother Greg, 5 years my junior, was a hotshot finance guy living in a fancy house out in the suburbs with his perfect wife and 3 kids. He'd always been the star of the family, straight A's, Ivy League scholarship, while I scraped by in trade school and community college. Our folks never said it outright, but I knew they bragged more about his corner office than my mechanic's license. What about Greg? I asked, my gut tightening. He's been blowing up Mom's phone even before the crash. A cold shiver hit me. How do you know? I grabbed her purse from the wreck before the paramedics took her. Her phone's been going off like crazy. Mia dug into her bag and pulled out a sleek phone in a pricey leather case that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. Screen's cracked, but it still works. She handed it to me. I stared at the notifications. 19 missed calls from Greg, 27 texts. My hands shook as I swiped to unlock it. Password protected, but I knew Kelly well enough to guess. Her birthday reversed. The screen opened and my world fell apart. Texts from Greg, one after another. You okay? Call me. I'm freaking out. Tom can't know about us. About us. The waiting room tilted like a funhouse. I gripped the armrest so hard my fingers ached. Dad, you all right? Mia asked. I scrolled back through months, years of messages, my brother and my wife, planning meetups, sharing private jokes, talking about me like I was a problem to dodge. One text from Greg burned into my brain. Tom's pulling another late shift. Come by after Mia's asleep. Another from Kelly. He's getting suspicious. We gotta be smarter. The worst, from just last week. I've always loved you, even before Tom. Before Tom. I shot up, knocking the chair back with a clatter that turned heads. I didn't care. The walls were suffocating me, and I needed out. Dad, where are you going? To get some truth, I growled, teeth clenched. I stormed out into the chilly November dusk, Kelly's phone like a grenade in my hand. My truck sat in the lot, coated in dirt and dead leaves from 3 days of neglect. I slid into the driver's seat, just sitting there, trying to wrap my head around the betrayal. My wife cheating, my brother, her accomplice, my daughter, carrying their secrets to shield me. Somewhere in town, Derek Vaughn was probably lounging in a cell, chuckling at the mess. I started the engine and peeled out, no destination, just needing to move. The radio kicked on, some preacher ranting about family and morality. Family? What a joke. I snapped it off and drove through the quiet streets of our small Indiana town. Past the auto shop where I'd worked for 16 years. Past the high school where Mia was class president. Past the chapel where Kelly and I tied the knot on a warm June day. Young and dumb, thinking love was all we needed. Guess it wasn't if we never really had it. My phone pinged with a text. For a split second, I thought it might be Kelly, somehow awake, ready to explain. But it was Greg. Heard about the crash. Is everyone okay? Call me. I stared at the words, then typed back, meet me tonight. We need to talk. His reply was instant. Anything for you, bro. Bro. The word tasted like ash. I drove to our split-level house on Cedar Lane, the one I'd been paying off for 19 years. The place where Kelly planned her double life while I fixed creaky doors and kept the grass neat, thinking we were fine. The answering machine blinked when I walked in. 9 messages. I hit play. Neighbors offering condolences, my boss at the garage asking if I needed time off, Mia's college roommate worried because she hadn't texted back, normal folks thinking this was just a tragic accident. If they only knew. I trudged upstairs to the bedroom I'd shared with Kelly for 2 decades and yanked open her dresser. In her jewelry box, I found it. A pair of sapphire studs I'd never seen, still in their case. Underneath, a receipt dated 4 months back, $2,500, from Greg. The room spun. I sank onto the bed, the box slipping from my hands, spilling rings and necklaces I didn't recognize across the floor. Gifts from men I'd probably never know. How long has this been going on? How many people knew? How many times had I walked into a room, felt the silence, seen the side eyes, and told myself I was imagining things? The front door slammed downstairs, followed by footsteps. Greg's voice called out, "Tom, you here?" I stood, stepping over the scattered jewelry, and moved to the staircase. My brother stood in the entryway, still in his tailored suit from some big money meeting he ditched to check on me. His face wore a mask of worry that might have fooled me a week ago. "Hey man, I came as soon as I got your text. Are you holding up?" I descended the stairs, each step heavy, deliberate. Greg's smile wavered as he saw my expression. "We need to talk," I said, voice low. "Sure, whatever you need," he said, following me into the living room. He sank into the recliner he always claimed at family barbecues. "Can't believe this happened. Kelly's always so careful behind the wheel. She wasn't driving." His face went blank, like he'd practiced it. "What's that mean?" I pulled out Kelly's phone, scrolled to one of his texts, and held it up. "Tom can't know about us." "Care to explain what that means, brother?" Greg's face went pale, like the life had been sucked out of him. For a second, I thought he'd try to weasel out with some half-baked lie to cover it up. Then his shoulders slumped, and the truth was plain in his eyes. "Tom, How long?" My voice was low, dangerous. "It's not what you think." "How long?" I bellowed, the words tearing out of me. Greg flinched like I'd swung at him. "Since college. Before you and Kelly got hitched." The words hit like a sledgehammer. I grabbed the edge of the sofa to keep from keeling over. "She was going to leave you," Greg rushed on. "She was picking me. But then she found out she was pregnant with Mia, and she felt stuck." "Get out, Greg, now." "Tom, please, let me get out of my house." Greg stood, hands up like he was trying to calm a wild animal. "I get that you're pissed, and you should be. But we're family. We can figure this out." I laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. "Family? You've been sleeping with my wife for 20 years, and you want to talk about family? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. We tried to keep it under control, but what? True love? Destiny?" I stepped toward him, and he backed toward the door. "You're both pathetic." "Don't talk about Kelly like that," he snapped, a protective edge in his voice that made my blood boil. "I'll talk about my wife, however I damn well please. She's in a coma because she was out with some sleaze instead of home with her family. Because she was too busy playing house with you." I stopped. Something flickered in Greg's face. Confusion, maybe relief. "You don't know," he said, almost a whisper. "Know what?" He stared at me, and I could see him wrestling with it. Tell the truth and torch what was left of us, or keep lying and pray the secret died with Kelly's coma. He picked the truth. "Mia's not yours, Tom. She's mine." The world went dead quiet, like someone flipped a switch and muted my life. Greg's mouth kept moving, but I couldn't hear him. His worried eyes looked like they were behind a wall of ice. Mia wasn't mine. 21 years of bedtime stories, bandaged knees, science fairs, and cheering at her graduation. 21 years of her having me wrapped around her finger, of picking up extra shifts to cover her braces, her first car, her college fees. 21 years of loving her more than anything. And she wasn't mine. I must have made some kind of noise because Greg stepped forward, hands out. "Tom, I'm so sorry. We never wanted you to find out like this." "Get out," I whispered. "Let me explain. Get out." This time he listened. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door, pausing to look back. "For what it's worth, you're a better dad than I could ever be." Then he was gone, leaving me in a house that didn't feel like mine, surrounded by 2 decades of lies. I sank into the recliner, where I'd sung Mia to sleep as a baby, helped her with math homework, sat up all night worrying when she went to her first party. None of it was real. I was just the fool footing the bill, while the real family snuck around behind me. My phone buzzed. Mia's number. "Dad, I'm at the hospital. Mom's awake." Kelly looked tiny in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped with cold precision. Her right cheek was a mess of bruises, her auburn hair tangled against the pillow. But her eyes were sharp, following me as I stepped into the room. Mia sat beside her, holding her hand. She looked up as I walked in, and I saw my own eyes in hers. Or maybe not. Maybe I'd been seeing what I wanted for 21 years. "Hey, Dad," Mia said. "Docs say Mom's gonna pull through, no permanent damage." I nodded, words stuck in my throat. Kelly's gaze shifted from Mia to me, and I caught a flash of fear in her eyes. She knew I knew. "Tom," she croaked, voice rough from the tube they'd pulled out that morning. Thank God you're here. We alone? I asked Mia. Yeah, nurses come by every 20 minutes or so. She squeezed Kelly's hand. I'll grab some coffee, let you two talk. She kissed Kelly's forehead, then hugged me as she passed. I'm glad she's okay, Dad. I waited until Mia's footsteps faded down the hall before taking her chair. Kelly watched me like a cornered deer. What do you remember? I asked. Fragments. We were at O'Malley's. Derek was wasted, but he wouldn't give up the keys. I should have stopped him. She shut her eyes. Is he? In jail. Drug possession, illegal firearm, reckless driving. Bail hearings tomorrow. I need to help him. He's my client. No. My voice cut like a knife. You don't get to do anything except lie there and think about what you've done. Her eyes flew open. What's that supposed to mean? I set her phone on the bedside table, its cracked screen glinting under the harsh lights. I've been reading your texts, Kelly. All of them. Her face went ashen, the bruises standing out like dark smudges. Tom, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why my brother's been sending you love notes for years? The jewelry stashed in your dresser? The hotel meetups while I'm busting my ass 60 hours a week to keep this life going? Tears streamed down her face, soaking into the hospital gown. I didn't want you to find out like this. You didn't want me to find out at all, did you? It's messy, Tom. You don't get it. Then make me get it. I leaned in close, and Kelly flinched back into the pillows. Explain how you and my brother could sneak around for 20 years while I played the idiot. Explain how you let me raise another man's kid while you two snickered behind my back. Kelly's sobs cut off sharp. Mia told you. Greg told me, right after I showed him your texts. I stood and walked to the window, staring out at the parking lot where regular folks dealt with regular problems. 20 years, Kelly. I've been living a lie. You love her, Kelly said, voice breaking. Mia worships you. Biology doesn't change that. I spun to face her. You're damn right I love her, more than anything. That's why I won't let you ruin her life like you've ruined mine. What's that supposed to mean? I'm divorcing you. I'm taking the house, the savings, everything I've busted my ass for while you were off playing house with Greg. And I'm keeping Mia. Kelly struggled to sit up, wincing. You can't. I'm her mother. You're a cheater who was out partying with a thug instead of being home with your family. You think any judge in this state's gonna side with you? Greg will fight you. He has rights. Let him try. I'm on Mia's birth certificate. I've been her dad for 21 years, paying for her life while he was busy screwing her mom. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the hospital's sterile tang on her. And I'm the one she'll pick when she hears the truth. Kelly's eyes went wide, panicked. You can't tell her? It'll break her. Like finding out about your affairs broke me? Like learning my brother's been stabbing me in the back since college broke me? I shook my head. No more lies. She deserves to know who her real parents are. Please, Tom, I'm begging you. Don't do this to her. I'm not doing anything. You and Greg did this when you chose to lie for 2 decades. I headed for the door. I've already called a lawyer, Vince Russo. You know him, right? Used to be a prosecutor before he got busted for shady deals. Now he's the guy for ugly divorces and custody fights. Vince Russo? Kelly's voice cracked. Tom, we don't need someone like that. We can sort this out ourselves. I paused, hand on the doorknob. No chance. I don't trust you, I don't trust Greg, and I don't trust myself not to fall for your act if you start playing sweet. I looked back one last time. Get a lawyer, Kelly. You're gonna need one. I found Mia in the hospital cafeteria, staring into a cold cup of coffee. She looked up as I sat across from her, and I saw Kelly's sharp mind in her eyes. How'd it go? She asked. Badly. I reached for her hand. Mia, we need to talk about some things. About your mom, me, our family. Fear flashed in her eyes. Are you guys splitting up? Yeah, she nodded slowly. I figured, after all this. I don't see how you could stay with her. There's more. I took a deep breath. Your mom's been having an affair with Uncle Greg for a long time. Since before you were born. Mia's face froze. How long is a long time? 20 years, maybe more. She pulled her hand back, leaning away. My whole life. Her voice was barely a whisper. Mia, am I his daughter? The question hung there like a live wire. I could have lied, said biology didn't matter, that I was her dad in every way that counted. I could have shielded her from this final gut punch, but I was done with lies. Yeah, I said softly. You are. Mia stared at me, her face a storm of shock, anger, pain, confusion. Then something like determination settled in. Are you still going to be my dad? The question shattered me and patched me up all at once. If you'll let me. Then that's what matters. She grabbed my hand again. Greg might be my biological father, but you're the one who taught me to drive, stayed up late checking my essays, chased away the nightmares. You were at every track meet, every school play, every parent night. You're my dad, Tom Brennan. That's not changing. I squeezed her hand, fighting the sting in my eyes. I love you, kid. Love you too, Dad. She managed a wobbly smile. What's next? We go home and figure out how to rebuild without the people who've been lying to us. We stood and Mia hugged me tight. Over her shoulder, I saw Greg walk into the cafeteria, probably looking for us. Our eyes locked and I saw him hesitate, doubt written all over him. Come on, I told Mia. Let's get out of here. We brushed past Greg without a word, but I felt his stare as we headed for the exit. In the lot, Mia climbed into my truck and buckled up. Dad, she said as I started the engine, what are you going to do about Uncle Greg? I thought about it as we pulled out. Greg, the golden boy, always outshines me with his big house, perfect family, flashy car, and tailored suits, while I get my hands dirty at the garage, paying the bills. But now I knew who he really was, and I'd make sure everyone else did too. I'm going to take him down, I said. Mia gave me a look that might have been respect. Good. We drove through the November dusk, past houses where normal families ate normal dinners, past the school where Mia had been prom queen, past the park where I'd pushed her on the swings when she was little, and Greg was just the uncle who showed up with gifts. Our house on Cedar Lane looked the same, but it felt like a stranger's. As we climbed the front steps, I mentally listed my next moves. Call Vince Russo to start the divorce, change the locks, freeze Kelly's credit cards, document everything for the custody fight, and figure out how to make Greg pay for 2 decades of betrayal. Dad, Mia said as I unlocked the door, whatever you're planning, I'm in. I looked at my daughter, because she'd always be my daughter, no matter what DNA said, and saw the same fire in her eyes that burned in my chest. All right, I said, but we're doing this right. Legal, smart, and brutal. Mia grinned, and for the first time in days, I thought we might come out okay. The phone was ringing as we stepped inside. Caller ID showed Greg. I let it go to voicemail. Vince Russo's office looked like it was stuck in a 70s cop show. Dark wood paneling, worn leather chairs, and a faint whiff of old cigar smoke despite the no smoking signs. Vince himself was a wiry guy, with gray hair and a shark-like grin that probably made witnesses sweat in court. Tom Brennan, he said, standing to shake my hand. Heard about the crash, rough stuff. How's your wife? She'll live. I sat in the client chair, catching the glint in Vince's eyes at the ice in my tone. That's not why I'm here. Didn't think so. Vince grabbed a legal pad and clicked his pen. What's the deal? For the next hour, I laid it all out. The affair with Greg, the text on Kelly's phone, the jewelry, the bombshell about Mia's paternity. Vince scribbled notes, pausing now and then to ask for specific dates or details. This is solid, he said when I was done. Really solid. Adultery, neglecting family duties, hanging out with a known crook. Any judge in this state will hand you everything you want. What about Mia? Can Greg claim any rights? Vince's grin turned sharp, like a wolf spotting prey. He can try, but he'd have to own up to 20 years of cheating and lying. Plus, he's been letting his own brother cover child support all this time. Makes him look like a liar, a fool, or both. I want him ruined, Vince. His career, his reputation, everything. That'll cost extra. Vince leaned back, chair creaking. But it's doable. Greg's a big shot at Kessler and Dunn, right? Fancy law firm, real image conscious. They won't like the stink of scandal. Do what it takes. Vince named a retainer fee that made my eyes water, but I wrote the check. Some fights are worth the debt. One more thing, I said, standing. I want to serve Kelly the papers myself. Tom, that's not how it's usually. I want to do it. Vince shrugged. Your call, your cash. Papers will be ready by tomorrow afternoon. I got home to find Mia in the kitchen, a fresh pot of coffee brewing and a hard look on her face. She'd been skipping college since the crash, and the strain was showing. Dark circles under her eyes, shoulders tight, jumping every time the phone rang. How'd it go with Vince, she asked. Good. He says we've got a strong case. I poured a mug of coffee and sat across from her. Mia, you don't have to get mixed up in this. You could go back to school, stay out of the mess. No way. Her voice was steel. They lied to me too, Dad, my whole life. I want in on taking them down. Before I could answer, the doorbell chimed. Through the window, I saw Greg's Mercedes in the driveway. Stay here, I told Mia. Greg stood on the porch, looking like he'd been through a ringer. His perfect hair was a mess. His pricey suit crumpled like he'd slept in it. He'd aged a decade in a week, Tom, please, we gotta talk. We've said all there is to say. It's about Mia. She's my daughter, and I have rights. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me, close enough to smell the whiskey on his breath. You gave up any rights when you lied to her for 21 years? When you let me pay for her clothes, her school, her life, while you played house with my wife? I wanted to tell her. Kelly wouldn't let me. Oh, so it's Kelly's fault? Poor Greg, seduced by the wicked woman. I gave a bitter laugh. You're pathetic. His face went red. Don't talk to me like that. I'm still your brother. No, you're not. A brother doesn't do this. A brother doesn't sit at my table for 20 years, playing uncle to his own kid, while I kill myself keeping your family afloat. She's my family, too. Where were you when she had strep throat in 4th grade? When she sprained her ankle at track? When she was up at 3 a.m., crying over some jerk who dumped her? I stepped closer and he backed up. You were off with her mom in hotel rooms while I was being her dad. I can step up now. I can be there for her. Too late. I turned to go inside, then stopped. Oh, and Greg? Start job hunting. Vince Russo's really good at tearing lives apart. His face went ghost white. You can't do that. I've got a family to support. So did I. Funny how that didn't stop you. I went inside, leaving him on the porch. Mia was in the hallway, arms crossed. I heard, she said. Will he really lose his job? If I have my way. I looked at her, seeing Kelly's sharp mind and my own hard-headed grit in her face. Are you okay with that? She thought it over. He made his bed. Now he sleeps in it. The next morning, I drove to the hospital with a manila envelope stuffed with divorce papers, custody documents, and a restraining order to keep Kelly away from our house and Mia. The nurses at the desk gave me a familiar nod as I headed to Kelly's room. She was sitting up, looking better than yesterday. The bruises had faded to sickly yellow, and someone had fixed her hair, even put on some makeup, probably trying to remind me of the woman I fell for 22 years ago. It didn't work. Tom, she said, her smile shaky. I wasn't sure you'd come back. Almost didn't. I pulled the chair close and sat. How you feeling? Better. Docs say I can go home tomorrow. She reached for my hand. I've been thinking about what you said. Maybe we could try therapy. I pulled my hand back and dropped the envelope in her lap. Open it. Her face fell as she read, Divorce petition for adultery and abandonment. Custody papers giving me full rights to Mia. Restraining order barring her from coming within 500 feet of our home. Tom, please don't do this. It's done, I stood. You've got 30 days to respond. Vince Russo's my lawyer, so get a good one. What about Mia? Can I see her? That's her call, but she knows everything now. Greg, the paternity, all of it. She's not exactly dying to hang out with either of you. Kelly started crying, but I felt nothing. No pity, no urge to comfort, no trace of the love I'd carried for 20 years. She was a stranger now, just someone who made bad choices and had to face the music. I didn't want it to go like this, she whispered. Sure you did. You wanted to have it all, keep me in the dark, never face the truth. I walked to the door. Congrats, Kelly. You got your wish. Hope it was worth it. I left her sobbing in the bed and drove home to find Mia packing boxes in the living room. What's this? I asked. Getting rid of her stuff. Clothes, books, photos, everything. She held up a framed picture of Kelly and Greg at some family barbecue, both grinning like they shared a dirty secret. Which, of course, they did. I can't stand seeing their faces anymore, Mia said, her voice sharp with resolve. We spent the afternoon clearing out Kelly's things. Her clothes went into trash bags for donation. Her books piled up beside them. The family photos were the toughest. 2 decades of birthdays, holidays, and road trips, all poisoned now by what was happening behind my back. What about this one? Mia held up a shot from her high school graduation, Kelly and me flanking her, smiling like proud parents. Except Kelly was probably thinking of Greg, and I was the only one clueless. Toss it, I said. By nightfall, the house felt like it belonged to strangers, clean, empty, honest. Mia ordered pizza, and we ate on the living room floor, surrounded by boxes and bags. Dad, Mia said, chewing on a slice of sausage pizza. I've been thinking about changing my name. To what? Mia Brennan. Legally. I want the world to know you're my dad, and Greg's nothing to me. I set down my slice and looked at her. You don't need to do that, kid. You know who I am, and I know who you are. That's enough. I want to. She wiped her hands on a napkin. Can Vince help with that? I'm sure he can. We finished eating in easy silence. 2 people who'd walked through fire and came out tougher. Outside, the November wind howled, but inside our stripped-down house, things felt steady, right? For the first time in years. The phone rang at 8:30 p.m. Greg's number. I picked up. "What do you want?" "Tom, please, I just need to talk to Mia. 5 minutes." I glanced at Mia, who was shaking her head hard. "She doesn't want to talk to you." "She's my daughter." "No, she's mine." "The birth certificate says different. The custody papers say different. Most importantly, she says different." I paused. "How's the job hunt going, by the way? Heard your firm's making some changes." Silence stretched on the line. "What did you do?" "Me? Nothing. But Vince Russo's got a lot of buddies around here. People talk. Word spreads about partners who've been sleeping with their brother's wife, using company funds to hide it." I smirked, though he couldn't see it. "Heard the board's got an emergency meeting tomorrow." "You son of a... That's Mr. Son of a bitch to you." I hung up and turned to Mia. "Your biological father says hi." She grinned. "Good. Hope they fire his ass." They did. The call came the next morning while Mia and I were eating pancakes and flipping through the local paper, like a normal father and daughter. Greg's assistant, voice shaky, asked if I knew where he was. Security had marched him out of the office, and no one could reach him. I said I had no clue and hung up. "One down," I told Mia. "What's next?" I thought of Kelly, alone in her hospital bed, probably scrambling to find a lawyer to save her skin. I thought of Greg, jobless and humiliated, having to explain to his wife and kids why he wasn't going to work anymore. "Now we wait," I said. "Let them bury themselves." 3 weeks later, the phone rang at midnight. I'd been half expecting it, but the timing still jarred me. Mia and I had settled into a rhythm. She'd taken a break from college to help with the divorce, and we spent our nights mapping out our new life. "Tom," Greg's voice slurred, thick with booze, "I need to see you. It's urgent." "It's midnight, Greg. Talk tomorrow." "Can't wait. I'm outside your house." I peered out the window and saw his Mercedes in the driveway, engine idling, headlights slicing through the dark. Even from here, he looked rough, hair a mess, swaying in his seat. "Go home. Sleep it off." "Please, Tom, 5 minutes." Against my better sense, I grabbed a coat and stepped outside. The November air was sharp, smelling of frost and fallen leaves. Greg stumbled out of his car as I approached, reeking of whiskey from 10 feet away. "You look like crap," I said. "Feel worse." He leaned against his car to stay upright. Lisa left me, took the kids to her mom's. For a second, I felt a twinge of pity, but then I remembered 20 years of lies and shoved it down. "Sorry to hear that." "No, you're not. You want me to hurt?" "Damn right I do." I crossed my arms. "What do you want, Greg?" "I want my daughter. I want to be in Mia's life. That's her call, not yours. And she's made it clear where she stands." His face crumpled. "She won't answer my calls, won't read my letters. I'm her father, Tom. Her real father." "No, you're the guy who donated sperm 21 years ago. I'm her dad, the one who raised her, loved her, sacrificed for her. You were just the guy banging her mom on the side." Greg straightened, anger flashing through the self-pity. "You think you're so perfect, so high and mighty? You didn't notice a thing for 20 years. What kind of man doesn't know his wife's cheating?" His words cut because they were true. I'd been blind, maybe on purpose, but the last month had taught me something. Being a victim didn't make me weak. It made me lethal. "The kind of man who trusted his family," I said, voice low. "The kind of man who busted his ass 60 hours a week to take care of the people he loved. The kind who thought his wife and brother were decent folks." I stepped closer and Greg stumbled back. "But I'm not that guy anymore, Greg. And you're about to see what I'm really made of." "What's that supposed to mean?" I gave him a cold smile. "It means I'm just warming up. You lost your job, your wife, your kids, but you've still got your reputation, your law license, your pride. For now. Tom, come on. Get off my property. Don't come back. Don't call. Don't write. Stay away from me and Mia, or I'll make sure you lose everything else." Greg looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my face shut him down. He climbed into his Mercedes, weaving as he drove off into the night. I stood in the driveway, the cold air biting, thinking about how much had changed. A month ago, I was a chump living a lie. Now, I was a man with nothing to lose and everything worth fighting for. The front door creaked open behind me. Mia stepped out in her sweatshirt, worry etched on her face. "Was that Uncle Greg?" "Former Uncle Greg, yeah." "What did he want?" "To see you." I told him that's not happening. Mia nodded, a glint of approval in her eyes. "Good. I don't ever want to see him again. Or her." Kelly had been calling nonstop since leaving the hospital. pleading to talk to Mia, to explain, to fix what she'd broken. Mia shut her down every time, and I was damn proud of her for it. It would have been easy to cave to Kelly's tears and apologies, but Mia chose the tougher road, holding people accountable. "Come on," I said, slinging an arm around her. "Let's go inside. Big day tomorrow." Tomorrow was the custody hearing, where a judge would officially grant me full custody of Mia and lock in the restraining order against Kelly. Vince Russo had called it a slam dunk. Kelly's lawyer wasn't even fighting the custody terms. But I wanted it airtight, legal, done. The courthouse was a circus the next morning. Word of the Brennan family mess had spread through town, and it felt like half the county showed up to gawk. I saw guys from the garage, a couple of Mia's old teachers, and faces I vaguely knew but couldn't place. Kelly sat at the defendant's table with her lawyer, a slick guy from Indianapolis, who handled high-stakes family cases. Kelly looked like a ghost, pale, gaunt, like she'd dropped 15 pounds in a month. She kept glancing at Mia and me, but we ignored her. Greg was a no-show, which was probably smart. A courtroom blow-up was the last thing we needed. Judge Margaret Ellison, a no-nonsense woman in her late 50s, had seen every kind of family drama in her 20 years on the bench. Her face said she wasn't here for theatrics. "This is a hearing for custody modification Brennan versus Brennan," she announced. "Mr. Russo, proceed." Vince stood, laying out the case with precision. Kelly's affair, her ties to criminals, her neglect of family duties. He piled on evidence, texts, jewelry receipts, police reports from the crash. Kelly's lawyer tried a defense, claiming she was a loving mother who'd made mistakes and deserved visitation. But his heart wasn't in it, and the room could feel it. The hearing wrapped in under an hour. Judge Ellison granted me full legal and physical custody of Mia, with Kelly getting supervised visitation only if Mia agreed. The restraining order was made permanent. "Let me be clear, Mrs. Brennan," the judge said, staring Kelly down. "Your actions over the past 2 decades show a pattern of deceit and poor judgment that undermines your fitness as a parent. Violate this custody order or restraining order, and you'll face criminal charges. Understood?" Kelly nodded, tears streaming. Court dismissed. Walking out, I felt a weight lift I hadn't known I was carrying. Mia was mine, legally, forever. Kelly couldn't take her away. "How's it feeling?" Mia asked as we hit the parking lot. "Like justice." We were almost to the truck when Kelly's voice called out, "Tom!" I turned to see her hurrying across the lot, her lawyer trailing with a frustrated look. "Please, just hear me out for a minute." "You're breaking the restraining order," I said, calm but firm. "I know, but I need to say this." She stopped a safe distance away, careful not to cross the line. "I never meant for it to turn out like this. I loved you, Tom. I still do." "No, you don't. You love the life I gave you, the security, the cover for your double life." I opened the truck door for Mia. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have been with my brother for 20 years. It wasn't supposed to last this long. We tried to stop, but you couldn't help yourselves. Yeah, you said that." I climbed into the truck and started it. "Goodbye, Kelly. Don't contact us." As we pulled away, I saw her standing there, watching us go. For a second, I almost felt bad. Then I remembered the lies, the betrayal, the 20 years of being played. The pity vanished. "Dad," Mia said as we turned onto Jefferson Avenue, "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For not falling for her act. For staying tough. For fighting for us." She squeezed my hand. "You're a good man, Tom Brennan. The best I know." I squeezed back, a calm settling over me I hadn't felt in months. We'd survived hell and come out stronger together. That's what mattered. The phone was ringing when we got home. I almost ignored it, figuring it was Kelly or Greg trying to drag out a dead conversation. But the caller ID showed Detective Harper. "Tom, it's Susan. We need to talk." "About Greg?" "He's been arrested, drunk driving, slammed into a pole on Highway 12, the same stretch as Kelly's crash. He's in the hospital, but he's facing charges when he's out." I closed my eyes, a mix of grim satisfaction and bone-deep exhaustion washing over me. "How bad's he hurt?" "Busted ribs, concussion, some cuts. He'll live, but he won't be driving anytime soon." Susan paused. "There's more. He had an unregistered gun on him when we found him." The satisfaction hardened into cold fury. "Was he coming here?" "We're not sure," Susan said. "But with everything that's gone down between you two, we figured you should know. We're posting a patrol car outside your place tonight, just to be safe." I thanked her and hung up, turning to Mia. "Greg's in the hospital. Car crash." "Is he okay?" I searched her face for any hint of worry for the man who was her biological father. Nothing. He'll live, I said. Good. Her voice was flat. I want him to hurt a little more before he gets off that easily. Her words should have rattled me, but they didn't. They made me proud. Mia had learned what life's ugliest lesson teaches. Some people don't deserve a free pass, and there's nothing wrong with wanting them to face the consequences. We spent the evening watching old action flicks and munching popcorn. Two people who'd fought a battle they didn't start. A police cruiser sat in our driveway, a reminder the fight wasn't entirely over. But for the first time in months, I wasn't scared of what was coming. Kelly was gone from our lives. Greg was locked up, facing charges. Mia and I had each other, and that was enough. As I tucked Mia into bed, something I hadn't done since she was 10, but it felt right after all we'd been through. She looked up at me with Kelly's sharp eyes and my stubborn jaw. Dad, what now? Now we live. You go back to school, I go back to the garage, and we're a family, a real one this time. Just us? Just us. That's okay. She smiled. It's perfect. I flicked off her light and headed to my room, passing the empty spot where Kelly's dresser used to be, where her clothes once hung, where 20 years of lies had piled up. The room felt bigger, cleaner, like it could finally breathe. Tomorrow would bring new fights. Greg would get out of the hospital and face trial. Kelly would probably keep trying to reach us despite the restraining order, and there'd be whispers from folks who thought I was too hard, too unforgiving. Let them talk. I'd learned the difference between being a victim and being a fool, and I'd never be either again. I fell asleep in my bed, in my house, with my daughter safe down the hall and my enemies scattered. For the first time in 20 years, I slept like a man with nothing to hide and nothing to regret. 3 days later, at 7:08 a.m., someone pounded on the front door like they were trying to bust it down. I was pouring coffee, and Mia was getting ready for her first day back at college. Through the peephole, I saw Derek Vaughn on my porch. He looked rougher than he had in the police car that night, skinnier, meaner, with a wild, desperate edge. His fancy clothes were gone, swapped for a worn leather jacket and jeans, and something in his eyes sent a chill through me. Mia, I called softly, go to your room and lock the door. Dad, what's wrong? Just do it. I heard her footsteps on the stairs as Derek hammered the door again. I know you're in there, Brennan, he yelled. We gotta talk. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, and moved to the front window to get a better look. Derek was pacing the porch, twitchy, clearly high on something. His hand kept drifting to his jacket pocket, and I didn't like what that might mean. 911, what's your emergency? This is Tom Brennan at 142 Cedar Lane. Derek Vaughn's on my property violating his bail. I think he's armed. Units are en route, sir. Stay inside, away from windows. But Derek must have heard me. He stepped back, glaring at the window where I stood, his face twisted with rage. You ruined my life, he screamed. You took everything. I ducked away but kept an eye on him through the curtains. He yanked something from his pocket. Not a gun, thank God, but a tire iron. He went to town on my truck, smashing the windshield, denting the hood. Where the hell are the cops? I muttered, watching thousands in damage stack up. Derek turned from the truck to the house, trying the front door, then circling to the back. I heard glass shatter in the kitchen, the window above the sink. Enough playing victim. I grabbed a baseball bat from the hall closet and headed for the kitchen. Derek was halfway through the window, legs kicking as he tried to pull himself in. He saw me and tried to back out, but he was stuck. Going somewhere? I asked. He swung the tire iron at my head. I dodged and brought the bat down on his forearm. Not hard enough to break it, but enough to make him drop the weapon. He howled, tumbling backward out the window into the shrubs. Sirens wailed, closing in. Derek heard them too, scrambling up and bolting for the woods behind the house, running like a man who knew his time was up. The cops rolled up 30 seconds later, 3 cruisers, lights flashing, officers with guns drawn. Susan Harper led the pack, taking one look at the wrecked truck and shaking her head. Where'd he go? She asked. I pointed to the woods. That way, probably aiming for the old quarry trail. Susan barked orders into her radio, calling in a search. Within minutes, a dozen cops were sweeping the woods, K9 units on the way, and a chopper buzzing overhead. They nabbed Derek 2 hours later, holed up in a rundown shed 4 miles out. He'd been carrying a .25 pistol, and enough meth to prove he'd been on a bender. He's done, Susan told me as crime scene techs photographed the busted kitchen window. Bail violation, breaking and entering, property damage, weapons charges. He's looking at years behind bars. He'll be lucky to see daylight before he's 50. What was he after? I asked. Revenge, most likely. Guys like Derek don't take humiliation lightly, Susan said. His lawyer told him Kelly's testimony was his ticket to a plea deal. When she stopped playing ball, he pinned it on you for tanking his chances. She shrugged. Figured you'd want the heads up. Mia came downstairs after the chaos settled, eyeing the wreckage with the same steady calm she'd shown through this whole mess. Well, she said, guess we need a new kitchen window, a new truck windshield, and probably a new front door. I surveyed the damage Derek left behind. Insurance should cover most of it. Dad, you okay? I thought about it. A month ago, an attack like this would have rattled me, left me shaken by the threat to my home, my family. Now, I just felt worn out but weirdly content. Yeah, kid, I'm good. Better than good, actually. I fought back. I'm not scared anymore. I put an arm around her. Derek was the last piece of your mom's old life. Now he's gone too. We spent the day sorting out the mess, insurance adjusters, repair guys, getting things back in order. By evening, the window was boarded up, the door braced, and my truck was at the shop. Mia cooked dinner while I sifted through a pile of mail, bills, ads, and a letter from Greg's lawyer asking for a meeting about family matters. I chucked it in the trash unopened. Dad, Mia said, setting a plate of lasagna in front of me, I've been thinking about what you said, about not being afraid anymore. Yeah? I think I'm ready to see her. Mom, just once. I looked at her, seeing the steel in her eyes. You sure? I need to say what I feel to her face. She needs to get what she did to us. Mia twisted her fork in the pasta. And I need to say goodbye for good. I nodded. All right, I'll call her lawyer tomorrow to set it up. 3 days later, we met at Vince Russo's office, neutral ground where everyone could feel safe. Kelly showed up with her lawyer, looking nervous but hopeful. She'd lost weight, gray creeping into her hair at the roots, but she still had that beauty that hooked me 22 years ago. Mia and I sat across the conference table, Vince beside us, notepad ready. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Then Mia cleared her throat. I wanted to see you, she said to Kelly, because I've got things to say, and I need you to hear them. Kelly leaned forward, eager. Mia, honey, I'm so glad. I'm not done. Mia's voice was steady, unyielding. For 21 years, you lied to me. You let me believe Tom was my real dad, while you were sleeping with the man who actually was. You let me love him, trust him, think of him as family while he was betraying us every day. Kelly's face fell. I was trying to protect you. You were protecting yourself. You wanted it all. Dad's stable marriage, Greg's affair, and a daughter who'd never question it. Mia's voice grew sharper. Well, I'm questioning it now. Please, Mia, try to understand. I understand fine. You're selfish, you're a liar, and you're a lousy mother. Mia stood, grabbing her bag. Tom Brennan is my dad in every way that counts. He raised me, loved me, gave up everything for me. You're just the woman who gave birth to me and spent 21 years hiding it. Kelly was sobbing now, but Mia wasn't done. I don't want to see you again. No calls, no letters, no contact. As far as I'm concerned, you're gone. She walked out without a glance back. I started to follow, then stopped at the door. You heard her, I said to Kelly. Stay away from us, both of us, forever. Kelly looked up, tears streaming. Tom, please. She's all I've got left. Should have thought of that 20 years ago. I left her crying and stepped into the November sunlight where Mia waited by the truck. The windshield was fixed, the dents almost gone. Soon, no trace of Derek's rampage would remain. How do you feel? I asked. Free, Mia said, finally free. We drove home through our small Indiana town, past the places where our old life unraveled and our new one was taking shape. The house on Cedar Lane looked unchanged outside, but inside everything was different. The lies were gone, the secrets laid bare, the betrayers scattered. That night, as we watched the evening news, the phone rang. I almost ignored it, but the caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. Mr. Brennan, this is Dr. Elaine Wong at County General, a voice said. I'm calling about Gregory Brennan. My stomach dropped. What about him? He's asked for you. He's dying, Mr. Brennan. The injuries from his crash were worse than we thought. Internal bleeding we didn't catch. He's got hours, maybe. I closed my eyes, a tangle of emotions hitting me. Anger, grim satisfaction, and buried deep, a faint echo of the bond I'd once had with my brother. He wants to see you and Mia, Dr. Wong said. He says it's important. I glanced at Mia, who'd overheard and was shaking her head firmly. Tell him no, I said. We've said all there is to say. Mr. Brennan, please, he's in a lot of pain. So were we for 20 years. I hung up and turned to Mia. You okay with that? Completely. She curled up next to me on the couch. He made his choices. Now he dies with them. Greg passed 3 hours later, alone in his hospital room. His funeral was 4 days later, but Mia and I didn't go. Instead, we spent the morning at a lake nearby, walking along the shore, talking about what came next. Mia would finish college, become a counselor like she'd always wanted. I'd keep fixing cars at the garage until I could retire, maybe take a road trip across the country, see places I'd never had time for. We'd build a new life, grounded in truth and trust, not lies and betrayal. As we headed back to the truck, Mia slipped her hand into mine. Dad, you ever regret it? Fighting back, wrecking their lives? I thought it over as we drove home. Kelly, alone and disgraced, her legal career in tatters. Greg dead, his name ruined, his family gone. Derek locked up, facing decades in prison. I'd taken them all down, piece by piece. No, I said. I don't regret a thing. They made their choices, and I made mine. Justice isn't always clean, but it's right. Mia nodded, a glint of approval in her eyes. Good. They had it coming. We pulled into our driveway as the sun dipped low, painting the November sky in fiery oranges and pinks. The house on Cedar Lane looked calm in the fading light, a place where two survivors could build something honest and real. I'd started this as a victim, blind to the truth for 20 years, but I was ending it as something else. A man who fought for what mattered and won, a dad who'd protected his daughter and held their family together, redefined by loyalty, not blood or lies. Mia and I climbed the front steps, past the spot where Greg begged for forgiveness he'd never get, past the door Derek tried to smash in his hopeless quest for revenge. We were home, truly ours now, no one else's. As I turned the key, I thought about what family really meant. Not the fairy tale about blood being thicker than water, but the harder truth about trust, loyalty, and the cost of betrayal. Family was the people who stood by you when everything collapsed, who chose you every day, not just because of biology or a piece of paper. Mia was my family, my daughter in every way that counted, my partner in surviving the worst, proof that something good could rise from the ashes. We stepped inside, shutting the door in the past and all it had cost us. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new possibilities, new chances to live the life we'd earned. But tonight, we were home.